Samurai Champloo is my #1 favorite anime of all time. I kinda made it a thing to watch it fully every year since 2016. So when I found out there was a game a few years back, I was instantly looking to play it any way I could. And returning to it now for the channel, I was glad to have that same save file from like 5 years ago lying around still. But even now, after all these years later, I have that same reaction starting it up. Seeing that classic intro recreated to the T, capturing everything I liked about it so much. I was hooked to see more again. This is Combat Overview. Here we go over the general controls, the main mechanics, who or what we use them on, and then seeing how it all comes together. Okay, so if you didn't know, this is a grasshopper game. Same developers behind Killer is Dead, Lollipop Chainsaw, and of course, No More Heroes. Sidetracked is one of the earlier action games, and you can see some of the DNA from Samurai Champloo carried over to their future titles. Kind of like a prototype of what's to come later on, which is pretty cool. To start things off, we have the choice between Mugen and Jin. Each have their own playstyle, story beats, bosses, and a few more things to change it up. So little Shaolin Monk Scarlet Nexus thing going on. Alright, there's our light attacks with its own combo, and of course triangles for heavies. Simple enough. Chaining into them gives us enders that really don't do much to enemies, and that's pretty much it. No delays, launchers, stingers, specials, skills, sub-weapons, and yeah, pretty straightforward. Onto defenses, we have something very familiar, because just like a few PS2 action games at the time, from Berserk, Kingdom Hearts 1, Zoe 2, DMC, and so on, we have a clash parry. You just gotta attack as your opponent does, which has this Q to E pop up, and at random, a few face buttons will show up, having you pick one fast as possible. Kinda reminds me of Killer is Dead's follow-ups, since they all lead into different things here too, but since it's random which ones even show up, it's not a very consistent option. So you really can't choose a specific one for situational uses like how you could in Killer is Dead. And another thing, it'll happen on its own mid-combo. Again, this seems to be the biggest problem we've seen with multiple games now that try this out, because it just lets you mash away with no penalty. I mentioned it in the Final Fantasy 16 video, but if only this clash parry property was possible on your first attack only to make it a more thought out option. Bit more calculated play rather than it happening for mashing away, right? We also have a counter by tapping circle as their attack hits you, but honestly I never used this once during my entire playthrough because why would you, right? Best to mash away and get easy clashes for free. And that's it. No side steps or rolls. We do have a guard, but no perfect timed ones to aim for. And again, why would you stand still blocking when you can attack non-stop to get easy clashes? When it comes to the HUD, it's honestly one of the best I've ever seen. Just so unique and fits the theme of Samurai Champloo with this mix of hip-hop. So we got our health above and our weapons durability below. I wish this meter worked like No More Heroes or Oni-Chanbara, where attacking will also chip at it. At least it'll be something to prevent mashing lights with no consequences. But the weird thing is, this meter doesn't play a factor to your starting weapon. So if you use any weapon other than the default one, then this durability meter doesn't play a role at all for the entire game. Kinda weird they would have this, but then not work it into your starting weapon to get used to it, right? Imagine if No More Heroes intro tutorial just never mentioned the beam's battery and how to charge it, but still had it on screen, having you wonder what's it for until you bought a new weapon like hours down the line. Either way, there's something here that implements its hip-hop influence into an actual in-game mechanic. So right in the middle we have our turntable, or click R3 to see your combo strings. Now, moving the right stick to either side can swap tracks on the fly. Not only does this change the actual background music that plays in-game, but it also changes up your combos too. Cool idea having an actual turntable and all that, but like we saw earlier, our enders don't really do specific things. It doesn't affect enemy states with juggles, trips, sendaways, crowd control, nothing like that. So a cool visual, but doesn't really lead to much, sadly. Okay, as you land hits, you'll build tension. That's what the speaker and little guy are here for. Eventually he'll start grooving as the beat maxes out, which is done by consistently landing hits and staying on the aggressive. Now raising tension will also change your combos by adding more lights at the end shown by the yellow highlighted squares. Just don't get hit too much because you'll lose tension. So it's a momentum kind of thing. Now not only does this add more attacks with high tension, one of your enders will get this red highlight around them. Your goal is to reach it to go into hyper mode, unleashing lightning fast attacks on everyone by mashing. Kind of reminds me of my hero's roulette system, but you have more control on how to get into this buff state, since it's not random. There's still more with Third Engine, so as we're maxed out, feeling the beat, and our little dance man is jamming out, the more we lay the beat down on enemies, maintaining this momentum, there will be this random enemy selected to unleash a flurry attack on them, shown by these stars above their head. We'll get one too above Dance Man, letting us know they're out there. Once this happens, this sets up Tate mode. So just gotta attack them to start it. This will go into a reaction based standoff minigame. Press the right button, and once you win, you'll do that flurry attack. Now doing this will heal you afterwards based on how many attacks you landed in that limited time mash game. And if you manage to reach 100, you go into the stylish powered up state, killing all of these enemies with one hit. You can stay in here as long as you don't get hit too much, or reach 100 kills, which unlocks a new item to buy. When it comes to enemies, there's ninjas that kind of stand around surprisingly. They don't try to rush you with some bob and weave approach, going in or backing off to use ninjutsus or something. Swordsmen that pop up, and they also stand around. Occasionally do a quick tap, but that's it. Later action games improve on this enemy type like Hi-Fi Rush and Revengeance, where these would usually set up fun parry-offs, but not here. There's specialized types to consistently block, but they don't stop you from mashing still, and they'll die by the end of your mash like combo either way. So yeah, enemies are cannon fodder here too, and just like in Berserk, they want you to sit around fighting infinitely respawning enemies to grind for randomly dropped currency to open up these locked doors to progress. So if you don't have enough, well, turn around and mash some lights again for a bit. At least the bosses aren't too bad since they're pretty out there. From an alpha monkey to a giant robo, and even this bullet hell boss basically having you dodge some wild patterns. Your movement might not be the best for precise positioning, but still fun. And then my favorite boss in the entire game, having a true 1v1 duel in a setting we've all seen before. Definitely the main highlight of this game for me. And that's Samurai Champloo Sidetracked. The main thing I really appreciated was just how, yeah, it's just another crazy tale that went on while searching for the samurai who smelled the sunflowers. And of course, trying to find the next meal. We also get that episode structure too, with that to be continued at the end, the multiple amazing title cards, and that energy being carried over to the rating system at the end. It's just so expressive because of its art direction and tone, giving it a lot of personality to match the anime, while adding some of that grasshopper flair on top of that. So if you're a fan of Samurai Champloo or Suda's games in general, then there's something here for you to like. But the thing is, it's a mess gameplay wise, with enemies being overly passive, no distinct enemy types to actually mix up your approach, no distinct enders, so you'll be mashing lights for everything, which feeds back into tension and extending your lights combos even further. Then clash parries happen on their own with no precision on your end as you mash away. A noticeable linear setup with infinitely respawning enemies having you farm for randomly dropped currency to progress to the next room. The game even crashed at me at one point, making me farm all over again. And since there's no saving mid-stage or checkpoints to come back to if you quit, you need to beat a mission all in one go. So yeah, it has similar issues that Berserk and Streetwise have, sadly. And the last stages are worst for this because it has you farm for every other 2 rooms. I skimmed through it and I counted 10 of them. While there's like 2 or 3 on average for any other level, so it's just a gauntlet for all the wrong reasons. Not for skill, but for being this tedious time sink. But hey, it makes us use everything we've learned along the way. Mash on offense to build momentum, mash on defense to get clash parries, mash during your powered up states, and mash to unlock keys. Pretty much it. And once you manage to get through all of that, beating the game, you'll unlock another character to play as to continue the story. But it's still the same linear mashy gameplay we just got through for the past 7 hours. Well, that sucks. I wish it was better since it definitely has creative mechanics that we haven't seen anywhere else, with this turntable setup letting you swap tracks on the fly for different combo routes. But it's not implemented very well, and a laundry list of other things too going against it. Cool this game exists, but expect a few hurdles if you play it yourself.